Okay, I wanted to make sure we're recording because there are people who cannot be here. So first I want to welcome you to this call, and we're going to talk today about how to write your about page. So I want to keep this to, maybe 30 minutes. I might go a little bit over, so I want to get started right away on this. First, a little bit about me. I am Kathy Goodwin, and I've been on the internet a long time. I've done a lot of copywriting, and now I do more of consulting and of helping people strategize. My main focus is, how do you look good on the internet? How do you have a compelling professional online presence, communicate exactly what you do, and get the kind of response that you would like to get? But I discovered while being on the internet for a long time that my clients hated to write. And many of you can probably relate. Please type in if you can relate, let me know. And they were getting bad advice on storytelling and about all kinds of other ways of writing on the internet. So now I've been finding that storytelling is probably the most underappreciated copywriting and marketing tool in your toolkit. And I'm about to remedy that. So Tammy says, I love to write, but not my online copy. And Sherry said, I'd love to write. I've written over 12 books. That is awesome. I've written books, and writing a book is like nothing else, right? That's awesome. But do you like writing your about page? Very few people like to write their about page. And so we're going to focus on that in this call because it's tricky and it can be fun to write, but we're going to see what it should be doing. The key is that your about page is designed to answer certain questions. Can you solve my problem? Why should I hire you? And will you be easy to work with? And we're going to come back to this over and over again. There's some symptoms your about page isn't working. There's confusion over who you are. What do you do? Who are you? Why am I on this page? That's a sense that your about page is really leaving people more confused than helping them. And you're not sure what you do, or they're not sure what you do, and sometimes you're not sure what you do. You get a fuzzy image. When you have people calling you and asking you questions and saying, I want to hire you to do such and such, and you do not do that, that's a sign that it's probably something on your about page. Or if they're not treating you the way you want to be treated, they're not respecting you the way you would like to be respected, or they're simply not signing up. They come to your site, they go to the homepage, they go to the about page, they go away. They're fuzzy. Remember, you've heard this over and over again about the confused mind doesn't buy. The about page is the place to eliminate confusion and get people excited to keep working with you. So today we're going to cover some key points. First, we're going to talk about how to enjoy writing about yourself. And some of the ways to do that are to tell stories. And remember, you're serving your client by talking about yourself. It's not an exercise in egotism. It's an exercise in helping your client. I like to say over and over, your clients want you to brag. They'll talk about it. When I had my first book out, my book on moving, at the time I was doing more of career coaching, and I still do some of that. Then I had clients saying to me, I saw your book in the bookstore. I bragged that my coach knew how to write a book. So they will brag about you, and they want to brag. I mean, think about your own providers, your doctors, your dentists, your lawyers, your accountants. When someone says, who do you go to for this service? And you say, well, I have the best massage therapist in town, which incidentally I do in Philadelphia. You like to brag about that. It makes you look good. And then we're going to cover the power of the about page, but we're not going to do this directly. I want to talk about some people who have agreed very generously to let me look at their about page. And we're going to look at three of them. First, Mary Alice Murphy is a proofreader. Sherry London is a Photoshop expert. I hope I got that correct. And Lorraine Watson is a life coach. And we're going to look at all three of these. We're going to start with Mary Alice Murphy. And I'm going to just give you a quick summary, and then we're going to go to her page. I'm going to encourage her to use WordPress, make the page look more professional, and we'll see what I mean. Get rid of the number 4, clarifying the purpose of each page, being consistent with each page, and we're going to look specifically at tightening her story and getting into the customer's backstory when we look at this page. So I'm going to now, and you should see in front of you something that says proofread for publishing. And I should say, I knew Mary Alice when I lived in New Mexico. I lived in Silver City, and she's still there. And I hear from her every now and then, and she's got a lot of neat things going on in Silver City. So moving on here, and I'm suggesting that she make the page a little bit more professional, a little bit more organized by using WordPress. I don't think this is a WordPress site, and I think you'll find when you use WordPress, the whole thing will come together much more strongly, and it almost designs itself. You won't need a designer to do it, and it'll sort of just kind of be easier to read and give people give the appearance that it's really a well put together page. I like the colors. The blue is nice. And now the other thing here is we have proofread for publishing, and you've got the number up here. I don't know if people can see this up here, where you've got the number 4 in the heading, in the banner. Sherry says, using Divi and WordPress makes life a lot easier. I agree totally. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. You can use any quality theme and your life is going to get much easier. So I would strongly recommend that to do it. But you're right, Divi is becoming, or Divi, however you say it, is becoming the go-to theme for most people. I used to like the StudioPress themes, but they've been breaking on me. So I'm switching over to Divi for my own themes. So Proofread for Publishing is a good name, but I would not use the 4. But back in the 90s, when I first started out, we did that. We used the number 4 and, like good for people or something, but we've kind of gotten away from that. So, and also this is a long intro here, which is fine if you're going to use that for something people just click on, but you're using it also for people emailing you, and that's kind of long. But that's not really related directly, but just as a thought here. And you've got here writing up under Proofread for Publishing, writing is important, and then there's a little correction here. You can see how your audience likes that, but this is kind of small, it's crowded, and that's why WordPress would make it a lot easier. So let's just jump right into the about part. Who is Proofread and what do we do? Well, the thing here is we want to start with who. I remember one of the things I suggested was asking yourself, what is the backstory of your clients? Think of your ideal client. So not how did you get here, but what is going through their minds when they're looking for a proofreader. And I'm curious also, you might want to consider calling yourself a copy editor rather than a proofreader, because that nowadays that's becoming a little clearer to people. They are saying copy editing is something where you go through and you actually make sure everything sounds right, is in the right place, and you do all these other things. Proofreading just means you go through and check for spelling, grammar, and commas and punctuation, things like that. But the key is your competition now, and what's going through someone's mind when they read this, I bet, is why should I hire you? Why can't I just get Grammarly or one of the software packages out there? So your competition isn't other proofreaders, it's software. That's your biggest challenge. And so you want to say what's going through their minds. What you might want to do is start out with not what do we do, and here I am, I'm the chief grammar nerd, and we offer services. Start out with saying, okay, you've got something to publish. And I want to emphasize on your homepage and your title here, you talk about you helping people who want to publish, whether they want to publish articles or books. And then you get here and you talk more about whatever you want to do. You'll help people do all kinds of things. We do proofreading, everything from essays, emails, frequent reports. But that's not really strictly relating to proofreading for publishing. Yes, in a sense, you are publishing every time you send out an email, but most people don't think of that. So think very clearly, what do you offer? Get very focused on what you do. And if you don't want to focus on publishing, that's okay. You can say we proofread everything. So you're talking here about proofreading, and you start out with a story about you. Again, so let's imagine your person coming here. What are they thinking? They're thinking, oh, the last time I sent something out, it was really embarrassing. I left out a letter and I changed the whole meaning of the word. And I was so embarrassed and I was awkward and nobody will ever trust me again. So now what am I going to do? Well, I tried using software and it did not catch everything because software doesn't. That's true. It may be cheaper, it may be easier, but it doesn't catch everything. And it didn't get the subtle nuances of what I wanted to say. So here I am. So once you've got that backstory, now you're writing to that backstory. You may not want to reproduce the backstory. In fact, often you won't, especially on an about page. So what are they afraid of? Well, they're afraid, first of all, their big fear is I'm going to send something out that's going to make me look like an idiot. The second fear is going to be that when I give it to you, you won't know what you're doing. You don't know how to proofread. You don't know grammar when you see it. You don't know punctuation. And the third is you're going to be a pain. You're going to be difficult to deal with. You're going to make fun of my bad grammar. You'll be late. You'll give me a hard time about what I'm doing. So if you've got those, remember those three things, that's what you have to cover here in the About page. So that's what I would suggest you do, is tighten this up, tighten up. A little bit about your story isn't bad. That in 5th grade, I diagramming with sentences. Although I have to say, if you do that, make this an audience that is skewed older, because I think nowadays most people don't know what diagramming is. It may be kind of sad, but it may be something that they don't relate to. A lot of people, so make sure they understand what that is and why does this make you a better proofreader. Sure, the fact that you're a champion speller is helpful, and so you might condense this to the fact that I've always liked spelling. I always was a great speller. I love grammar. I'm always the only person in my family, in my class, who actually looked forward to grammar classes. And you've published, you've written for the newspaper, you've done, I happen to know you've done other things. Put that in there. Answer the question, what makes you qualified? So that's what I would say pretty much about this. And we also have a comment here, proofreading is critical. And you might want to talk about that. You might want to have, maybe on this page, maybe on your homepage. In fact, your homepage, I'm not going to go into that another call, but you might want to start out with why it's so critical. You might even have a horror story about someone who did not have a proofreader and what happened to them. So that's all we have time to say on this for now. That says Mary Alice Murphy at the top, which reviews what we talked about earlier, using WordPress, clarifying the purpose of each page. This page should be answer those questions very specifically, and that's all it should do. You shouldn't have a lot of other things on that page. Tighten your story and get into the customer's backstory. So those are the main challenges that you have and the main suggestions that I have for you. So let's talk now. We're going to move on to Sherry. And I'll briefly summarize some of the points on Sherry's page, and then we'll look at her website, her About page. First, she has a great name, Prancing Pixel. I assume people who are interested in working with her know what a pixel is, and it would make sense because she works in Photoshop. And anyone who wants to learn Photoshop has been on the internet long enough to know what a pixel is. If not, then that'll confuse people, but I like the name. And we're going to suggest that she be strong and not tentative. At one point, Sherry uses the term, I hope, and we're going to see that that is a little bit not as confident as it could be, because Sherry knows her stuff. She likes to teach it. She's artistic. She knows Photoshop. She's a rare combo of tech and art, and she should really be proud of that and let people know. And she also will be easy to work with. Let her know that, let people know that. And working more with your client's backstory, and talk more about why you're qualified. Sherry is extremely qualified to do this, and she needs to share that. And we're going to talk a little about why, for her in particular, the About page can be extremely powerful. So this is Sherry's About page, and it's, as you would expect from someone who is a designer, it's beautiful. I love the top. Now, I would suggest a little bit of change in this Sherry, and I'm a Photoshop fanatic, and it's beautiful, and I would suggest simplifying the left because it is tricky to follow, and it's you've got a lot going on the left. You've got this two pictures which are great. You've got this, these are, I assume, examples of what you can do with Photoshop, and you've got more. But I would start with just keeping it simple and use, maybe just have a little bit somewhere, but keep it simple, and use the page, use the whole page to talk about yourself. Start out by working with your client's backstory. You start out here with an aptitude test given to me before I entered university, said I do best as a teacher, an artist, and an author, and I've done this. This is about you, and it's very helpful. It lets us know you have a strong background, but let's start out with the client. What is the backstory of someone coming to this page? My hunch is it's something like this. I know I need to have more graphics in my website. I have tried different programs. I've tried Canva, I've tried PicMonkey, I've tried all kinds of other things. And I really think I want something, I might as well break down and just learn how to really use Photoshop. Or it might be someone who says, okay, I've tried the basics of Photoshop, but I don't really know how to use it. There are things specific things I want to do with Photoshop, such as surface patterns, bead and fiber work, or or specific types of drawings or specific effects in Photoshop. The key is start with what they're concerned about. And at the very top, that's what you put in at the very beginning of this. Say, here's what I offer based on what you want. So start out by saying something like, I'm going to go with the scenario because that's the one that I would know best. And you may have a different one, but this is just an example of I need to get more graphics, and I'm so tired of these different packages. Each one, you have a learning curve, and they don't do everything. And you have to pay extra each time you want to do any little thing. So for example, if you want to resize images, yeah, you can do a certain amount of that with Canva, but if you pay more, but you can't really go through and do this layering. You can't really have some of these effects. And I'm tired of trying all these packages. I just want to learn how to use Photoshop, and I want to become more sophisticated. Maybe I'll even become a designer. So that's some of the fantasies that I've had about Photoshop. So then you would say, okay, at the very opening, you would address that. You would say something like, every business owner these days has to know writing, but more and more we find that you have to understand design as well as writing. And this is becoming extremely critical to our business. So one of the ways, how do you learn design? How do you become a designer? Well, you can get you can buy a bunch of the software, and this software does this and that software does that. You can have 10 pieces of software. Or you can get Photoshop, and you can go crazy trying to teach yourself Photoshop. Or if you know Photoshop, sooner or later, it will drive you crazy. So you have something like that. And then therefore, this is where I come in. I've worked with people and I have found Photoshop is not just a tool, but it's fun. And I want you to become, not to enjoy it, to make it a useful tool, and to like it so much, it'll be almost like an addiction. And then if you're going to talk about addiction to Photoshop, and I know you like that metaphor, make sure to say that there are positive addictions. For instance, people have written about meditation as a positive addiction. Running is a positive addiction. And now you have Photoshop as a positive addiction. And what happens when you get addicted to Photoshop? Well, your life changes. Your whole business changes. You suddenly become aware of new ways to communicate what you're about. That's the kind of thing you want to put in there in this page. And then you go on and talk about you. And you have a brief story. Now, you don't have very much about yourself in here. So I don't necessarily think you want to tell your life story, but you hint that you've been a teacher, artist, and author. Come up with a very short summary. So after you've introduced it, here's why being addicted to Photoshop can be a good thing. And in fact, that might be a cool headline because it's a surprise. And then here's what I can teach you. Here's why I'm better at it than other people. So you've said, for example, up here, I've done all this and I hope. You don't want to hope. You say, I am confident that when I work with you, you can become so strong in Photoshop that you won't need to hire help anymore. You won't be running around buying PicMonkey and Canva and this and that and the other thing. You will have Photoshop, and that will solve all your problems for design. There are better ways to say it, but that's the idea. And then why? Why are you the best? Well, you're passionate, you'll inspire you, and you're an artist. So let me just suggest a few things, because then I'll leave it to you. But first, you know how to make art. Therefore, you look at design with the eye of an artist. Even if it's just a design for a sales page, you look at it not just as an artist, but as an artist who also knows business. Because when people are buying art or are buying Photoshop courses, they want to use it to make more money, and you know that. Second thing is that if you are a designer and you're using Photoshop to build your portfolio, this is where you shine. You are an artist. You know exactly how to choose what to put in a portfolio and what will work and what you may not want to include in a portfolio. And when you say you are novel and sellable patterns, it's more that I would even expand a little the point of using Photoshop. And again, if this is your market, then people who want to build a portfolio for design, then this is really good. And you can say, I can help you build a portfolio using Photoshop. And again, choose what should be in there. Novel patterns, novel, You have to show why being novel is good. People want something different. You won't blend into the pack of all the other people shopping their designs. Now, this here is probably one of the best parts of the page and should be highlighted. Using methods that most design instructors don't teach. Say more about that. Maybe what are some of the methods you use, and why are you the person who teaches them? How did you learn them? Say a little bit about that. And then you learn to put these Photoshop Legos. I really like this image. You might want to play with that more so you can rearrange them without losing work. This is absolutely intriguing. And, you know, I would put a lot more into this. So in summary, cut out the part up here about, or at least don't put it up here, an aptitude test. In fact, that's not too relevant. What you want to do is start out with where the person is coming from. If you're an artist who wants to use Photoshop to build a portfolio, then you're in the right place, because I've done this. Here's some of my experience. I know not only how to do it, I know how to teach you, and I can help you with confidence. And Sherry said, I agree totally, thank you. Okay, and now we're going to move on. Again, just let me recap briefly. I like what she's got here, been there, been that. That's not clever without being overly cutesy, without being overly clever. It's a good way of saying that, been there, been that. I like that part of it. And so then we've got here, you know how you come across when people somehow knew who they were. Yeah, that wasn't me. Okay, I would like to suggest that you start out with the client's backstory. Your hook on this page seems to be, the whole website seems to be about being authentic and identifying who you really are, rather than anything else. It seems to be getting into being genuine. So you start out with a story about how people try to get you to be what you were not. And this is what Lorraine is doing. And it's a really good story. I would definitely recommend condensing it. And, you know, I would start out, I put some note, I looked at this earlier. I would start out with this. This is a good headline and it's a good hook. I could have used me back then, because back then I didn't know what I wanted to be. People were telling me, you want to go to college and you want to major in what your sister majored in. You want to be in a business, in a corporation. You want to be a corporate executive. And I didn't, that's not me. That was not what I should be doing. But I didn't know. There was no one like me to be my coach. So I could have used me back then. And then that would be the hook. Tell the story that way. So with Lorraine, one of the things is to change the way you tell your story. Keep it short. And then less about, not knowing didn't have to suck so bad. There might have been, keep it more to the story, the fact, a little less about your emotion. When you talk about emotion, you can talk about the client's emotion, your reader's emotion, but not necessarily about you. And then what I needed most was someone to show me how to take the time. Okay, that's good, but you can condense that a lot, and no point adding up the time. But no, there is point. When you're telling the story, you tell people, hey, I spent money, and give some examples of the things you did to try to relieve the frustration. Not soul bearing. You don't have to tell everything, but tell a little about that. So, and then you talk about what you realized. You don't have to say light bulb went off. That's a little bit, that's good, but it is, you could think of a stronger way to say that. What I do does not define who I am. This is not your strongest point, okay? This is not the strongest point on the page because it's not particularly unusual. A lot of people go through the discovery of, hey, I need to be me. You have stronger things to say, and you say them farther down. So don't go it alone. This is good, but you can shorten this. Going through this was not meant to be done alone. Well, why? The business of discovering feels risky and vulnerable, and that's good. It's a good part there. But one thing to remember: as an infant and child, you had your parents, siblings, and family. Not everybody did. We've been reading in the paper about a lot of people. A lot of books are coming out about people who did not have parents, siblings, and extended family. So, yeah, one of the rules the closest thing I hate the word rules, but one of the helpful ideas in copywriting is not to assume. So don't assume that anything about your audience. It's like when you open a email and someone says, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that you don't want to do this. No, that's not what I'm thinking. So just a minor thing. And and when you say you need the power of a community, do you do one-to-one coaching or do you put people into a community? And that should be clarified. And sometimes you need community. You don't really need, you need support, encouragement. And I like this, brush off the dirt when you stumble. This is very Lorraine. That's you. Now, this is the part that is the best. One of the best parts of this page. This is stronger than a lot of the stuff you have before. I'm here too, and this is good, but not. And this is what I like about this is that, and what will work about this is that you distinguish yourself very clearly from other life coaches. You come right out and say, I'm not here to hold you accountable. There are so many coaches who throw that in there, and their main thing is accountability. And you're saying, no, that's not what I'm about. I'm going to give you a safe space. If that was easy, you would have done it. And this is good. I bring a fresh set of eyes, nudge, ask questions, call BS, and nudge some more. This is you. I can see your personality coming through on this. And then you have down here, most important of all, I'm here to see the real you and hold you in that truer place. Some coaches use that term, hold you in that truer place. You might want to test this and see how your various clients like that expression. Some people do and some people don't. And then this is, you can actually, some of this you can include or you can cut. I have to think about that one. But core values is another thing. I really think the core values are great. This is another way you distinguish yourself from other coaches. Safe space, utility. And this is a really good way to do your about page because you're talking about you, but you're talking about you in the context of your clients and their backstory. Safe space, simplicity, and curiosity. The way you wrote it up is a little bit vague in some cases, like the answers don't need fancy giftware and bows. I'm not sure I got that, but that may be me. I'm not your target market. They're all around you when you practice how to look differently at everyday things. So again, I'm not sure it's simplicity. It seems like it's all about looking at your environment, and the answers are all around you. And it may be that people make things more difficult than they have to be. But I would say clarify these values, but this is something that shows why you're different. And at the same time, how you help people. That's great. And then want to continue together your own letters. I like this. Your own letters from home seems to be the name of your email, your newsletter. Make that clear that that's what that is. And off topic. Okay, this down here is a judgment call. Lorraine interviews Lorraine. You get into things about yourself. I love this picture. I'd consider putting it on the top, actually, and somewhere else. And then you have things about you. This is for everyone, this is a judgment call. Like 10 things about me you didn't know. The reason it is whenever you put an additional item on a page, you dilute its effect. So if you have 10 things on a page and the audience likes 8 of them and the other 2 are, I don't know, you're going to lose a lot of the impact of the 8 they really like. So it's really important to think about, do you want to have these other things? Will they make people like you more? Will they make people more likely to hire you? If not, you have to be ruthless and say, out they go. If your audience, on the other hand, likes them, then by all means leave them in. I tend to favor keeping your about page short, to the point, and only focusing directly on things that will work with your clients. So let's go to, now we're going to summarize Lorraine's beautiful site with a strong sense of who she is. Been there, been that, I like that. The hook seems to be about authenticity. And if you look at the whole page, it talks about being true, and that makes sense. The key is to tighten your story and starting with, I really start down with, I could have used me. I think that's a really strong hook. And missing why you're qualified. That's a big part of what's not there. Why you? Have you had coach training? Have you worked with people in a different capacity? Did you things in your past life, your past job, contribute to who you are now? For example, did you take courses or major in something in college that would make you qualified or extra strong at doing this? And then identifying the client's backstory, the core values, or come up maybe examples or little stories, or write them more clearly, test the personal stuff, and the great photo at the bottom. So this is what we come up with on Lorraine's. And I want to go on now. If you have questions, please ask them now. I'm going to just briefly go through some ways you can get more information and then summarize what we talked about today. It's good to have live links throughout your About page. Let me come back to that if that's okay. Coming soon, first, I'm putting together a course because I have not seen a course that actually walks you through it. I've seen ebooks that tell you what to do, but don't actually lead you by the hand to go through it. And we're going to have 4 modules plus a bunch of bonuses. Watch for it coming probably the end of next week. So just make a note, it's on the way. Where to get more information? First, you can always work with me one-to-one. And incidentally, when you hire me for a full consultation, I usually give you a free course. So you might want to think about that if you want to get a course, my course coming up, included when you sign up for a full consultation. I have a Udemy course on storytelling, and this link will give you a discount if you want to sign up for that. That's Storytelling for Small Business Marketing, and that's a course that a lot of people have found valuable. We go through the different types of courses, types of stories, and where you can use them. And then I have my new Amazon Kindle book, which is just out, and this is extremely comprehensive in all the different ways you can use stories to build your business. So I'm not going to do a sales pitch, but a lot of people don't know that I have these things available and that I'm very happy to work with you. I still do copywriting, but only for people who start with me through consulting. If you work with me as in a consultation and you say, you seem to get what I'm doing, I'd like you to write, then we can talk about it. But I do fewer of those, and they're very special. So just to summarize, the About page reassures your clients you're good at what you do, you're easy to work with, and you get where they're coming from. This is probably the key to About page. I don't recommend using live links to move around the website in general. I used to recommend that to people, and now I don't anymore. I used to recommend that you put in live links, say on the home page, and people will do it. And now that doesn't work. Generally, it's better if you can to have links on the page only as they're absolutely needed. So on your About page, keep people reading, keep it short, and then at the bottom, you have a call to action, which tells you where to go next and what to do if you're ready to act now. Generally at the bottom, I recommend 2 calls to action. I recommend 1 call to action for if you want to hire me right now, and then a second call to action if you want just to go to the next page on your website and keep moving through the website. So I don't recommend having links throughout the website in that case. We used to do more of that, but not now. Any other questions? If there aren't, I am going to pause. Going once, going twice, and again, I'll be sending out a follow-up with links to get in touch with me and with the recording of the site. And it'll probably be available tonight or tomorrow. And Tammy said, thanks, great info. Thank you, that's great. And you can see I'm going to have to play with this software quite a bit more. Thanks again, everybody. And I'll see you. I'm going to be doing another call next week. And keep an eye out. We're going to be doing a whole course on About pages.